What's up, you guys? We're in Hawaii right now, inside Waikiki, right by the beach, as you can see in the background. We're going to be filming this video on something really important today. I need your full attention, and I need your full honesty with yourself and with the world around us. All right, you guys, this video addresses something very important. The thing that we like to call money. The thing that it is, the thing that it should be, and the problems that we have with it. How it's turned our society upside down, and maybe some solutions out of it. Why are you here, though, is the main question. Like, you use money every day. You buy things, you save it, you invest, you survive basically through your use of money. It's pretty simple. You use that paper to do things, to acquire things, and to help you get along through life. But is it actually really that simple? What does money actually do? How does it serve us? If you want to truly be successful, you have to actually understand that the money you're chasing has a story. And you need to play your part in understanding that story if you actually want to acquire more of it. Otherwise, it won't respect you. This is how most truly wealthy families got their status. Not just the multimillionaire, but the people that bring on generational wealth above that level. What I mean is the true wealthy. Welcome to this channel, and welcome to this video. Let's be very clear here. There are a lot of things going on behind the scenes than you believe, and that's for good reason. And a lot of you are just not at the level of comprehension that you need for this video, and that can help you understand why we're getting into these concepts. If you don't get it, it means you need to challenge yourself. It all starts with understanding our history. The concept of money itself has been around since BC times. Evolution required us to develop a system of trade, getting this for that. We can't do everything ourselves. We used to barter items one for one, like a bag of wheat for a pair of shoes or something like that. But people realized they didn't want to have to go out and find someone that had wheat to trade for their shoes, or vice versa. So they came up with a system of currency to represent the value, money. Now, this money in the old days was mainly physical hard coins, and they were very heavy and they were very difficult to transport. A lot of the times you could get robbed in the street just for carrying them and lose all your wealth instantly. So throughout history, someone had the genius idea of taking these coins as money and storing them in a safe location and offering some sort of receipt to show that you had the value that you had. These were called things like checks. And the total amount of money that the government was able to make was based on something. That was either usually gold, silver, or some sort of precious metal, spice, whatever that may be. That's where we get the name gold standard or silver standard. If you look through American history, you can see we had a huge debate on which one to use. And the funny thing is, it's neither. The current idea of money that we use in America is not backed by anything. It's backed by the faith of the people in America that a certain amount of money retains its value. Well, money in America is not just that simple. It's not backed by something individual. Our money says that we put faith in this dollar bill to be able to purchase something. And somebody is willing to accept that risk on the other end, even though they can't trade that for physical gold, silver, whatever. So because money is not just a hard concept, we can print more as we need it, and we definitely have. Welcome to all the inflation, economic crises we've been through in the past decade. Starting as early as the 1930s and the Depression, running up till now. Now here's the next concept we're gonna brush over. In the 1930s that I just mentioned, we had something called bank runs, because some genius decided that in order to help stimulate economic growth, we could lend out money that we didn't physically have to help a business grow. This means as long as banks maintain a certain percentage of the money that they're lending out to gain interest and make their own money, they don't actually have to have it all on hand. It doesn't have to be physical paper, it can just be on paper. And this has been amazing for banks. They've been able to keep making money and charging interest off loans, and their whole business model results around them getting interest payments. Them offering more loans to people, getting accepted, getting the payments back, and making them rich. So this concept is called fractional reserve banking. It's something that you may or may not have heard of, but it's something you definitely should know about. So banks that want to make money off loans have to decide a way for themselves to make money through scaling the amount of loans they have. They can't charge an infinite amount of interest or no one will accept it, so they have to increase the number of loans they offer. Ever heard of the American dream? You get your house, you get your car, you build a family, you go to college. These are all things that resolve around you taking money from the bank, borrowing more than you have in order to get these things done. You really think that the American public came up with this idea and pitched it? Do you think they pushed the marketing for this idea so hard? No. It was simply those that were trying to profit, and they definitely succeeded. Now your parents are stuck in a fractional reserve profit scheme and they're trapped in a work cycle until they're dead, basically, taking on more money in order to pay off things so they can take out more money and keep the cycle profiting the banks. I'm going to explain this like you're stupid, because I was, until I did the research and educated myself the way school never actually taught me on this. When banks lend out money, they're charging interest on the loan. That means borrowers must work to pay off the loan and the additional interest they accrue over the period of the loan. Most of you know that. There's obviously an interest rate on a lot of loans. But over a 30-year American Dream mortgage, they're giving probably 50% or higher back to the banks just in income. None of it was the original payment, it's all interest over 30 years. This is basically just them offering a free paycheck to the bank every month. And you multiply that amount, that interest, by every boomer who has bought a house and every millennial that continues to follow in the same strategy, and you get pretty rich bank firms out there. In many cases, because of this, because people are stuck paying off so much interest, people are struggling to get basic needs met, like buying a house or taking out healthcare, due to the high cost of living and the limited amount of free income that they have. So what do they have to do? Take out another loan. They'll often just refinance their house, take out a loan, put themselves in a cycle of death to get that free income that they paid off from their house, and then they just have to pay that money back. So they're stuck paying off the same 30-year mortgage over 50 or 60 years. And we call that the American Dream. This leads to inequality as well. When banks lend money to businesses, they're more likely to charge higher rates to less developed companies and give deals to their large business friends. This will give more developed businesses an advantage on smaller competitors and keep them powerful. The banks get to control the money and therefore who runs the world. It's deeper than just getting a loan. You're getting welcomed into that fraternity I talked about in the last video. You're getting trapped in a cycle of debt by signing up for the glorious American dream. Why do you think this image was so heavily pushed? It's not just something that we all decided to do at once. A significant amount of marketing went into this dream, and nobody that doesn't have money and resources already is going to pursue something like that. That gives you an indicator that it wasn't just the public, because it's the primary marketing for the generational debt of the income machine that you're working for the bank. You're generating the income, you're their worker, and they love it. The American Dream also just tells people you're gonna be successful at whatever you do if you just give it a shot. This encourages people to try things of which they have absolutely no experience, because they can just take out a loan if it doesn't work. I'm not saying you're not gonna make it, I'm just saying there's a lot of people that don't. And the banks like encouraging people to waste their money on things like that without any experience. Why master the knowledge that goes into actually running a restaurant before you start it up? The best way to learn is through experience, right? You can always refinance your house, right? There's basically no risk. And they tell you to invest your money into big funds, big stock market funds. A lot of people try to invest on their own with no knowledge especially, and lose a lot of money. That's not just because of luck, because you're having a bad day. You can make money on the stock market. You can make money on any market, but there are people smarter than you that have more resources than you that want you to do this because they want to take your money. You know, you're becoming financially free and independent by investing in the greatest stock market in the world, boosting the American economy. Your 100 grand in the market ain't shit. Unless you're good enough and can predict and guess the direction that these massive firms are going to control stock prices, your money is otherwise as good as gone. Listen to me carefully. You cannot change the game. It is too ingrained for you to fix it at an individual scale. But I can help you act on this. I can help you actually make money despite all the controlling companies, firms, powers out there trying to take things away from you and limit your freedom. To beat the system, you must first become one within it. If this is actually the best way to make money and there's so many massive players out there, then join the system. Join it to beat it. We're going to define the end state and work backwards to figure out how you can actually use this system. You basically want to have income coming in from other people, the same as banks do, and you're going to use that bank's fake money to scale your personal growth. Now, you're not just going to start up your own bank and start issuing loans out of thin air, but you're going to use the loans indirectly to generate income off other people, just as banks do. This is going to sound a lot like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, or any of these other gurus out here that actually do know a lot on this subject. But I'm going to give you a rundown so you don't have to read all these books and figure out the best way to do this. It's simple accounting. Take out a loan first. I know, it's very ironic for what I said. Use your loan to buy any asset which directly generates you income. Real estate is amazing for this. You put a tenant in, you collect a rent payment, you can put a little work in yourself if you want, but you're basically getting a paycheck every month, especially if you do something passive like Section 8. Buy a small LLC. You can buy a Bitcoin miner. Buy something that you know on paper is analyzed as a truly good investment. As long as it's producing a decent amount of cash flow, go with it. Again, those aren't specific investment recommendations, but I think personally that they're good assets. Don't take that as specific financial advice. Continue taking out loans and take the shortest payment option that is feasible for you. If it's real estate, if you can take a 15-year loan over a 30-year loan, the amount of, how do I do this? Principal plus interest on a 30-year loan, like right here, is going to be a lot less in interest if you take out a 15-year loan. So go with the 15 if you can. Equity is our friend too. Assets equals liabilities plus equity. When you have a house, your asset is the house. It's what you can get value out of. The liability is the loan you have on the house, and the equity is the difference between the two. For our newbies, we're going to keep talking about real estate, by the way, because I actually really love it, and I think that this is a good example of what I'm talking about. Equity on a house, for example, is the money that you've paid off. So if you owe like $400,000 on a $500,000 house, you have $100,000 of equity. We also call that net worth at the end of the day. This could be the same for a Bitcoin miner or a car rental business or, landscaping equipment, whatever you have. Continue scaling the assets that produce cash flow and minimize assets currently that you aren't funding with your own cash flow. Avoid buying the Benz, which again is not generating you money and it has a loan, so it's a liability, or, a house for personal use until you're funding it with your own profits, not the bank. Take out an apartment and just rent it. If it's going to save you money, and you don't have to pay all the interest, just rent from someone else. Once you've scaled your equity to a point where you can buy a house if you want, then do that if that's what you want. You don't have to, because that's the American dream. I want you to be aware of the American dream and how this thing affects you, so you can now make decisions that don't have to align with it. For your income, keep working your regular job if you want, or take the equity in that house, right? The $100,000 on the $500,000 house you paid off, and get a loan for that with very short-term payment obligations if you can provide it, and use that to buy more assets. Put that toward the shortest loan duration you can afford with real estate or another asset. Minimize their gains, the big companies' gains, by paying them back fast. You can't avoid paying interest, but you can minimize it. Some people will just tell you to take the longer-term loan. You can generate more cash flow because the payment that you owe on the loan is less. So you can, split that up, and then the income you bring in, you'll have a higher amount to save quicker. And honestly, if they both work, take the shorter term, because the less money that you have to pay out of pocket on these loans, the more money that you get to keep at the end of the day. We're talking long-term progress here. We're not talking about, we're not going to sell these assets in a short amount of time. Keeping your house and having it paid off after 15 years saves you 15 years of payments, which over a 30 house portfolio allows you in the long run to scale your business way further. Don't just look on short-term gains. The bottom line, you need to understand money and how it both exists and does not exist. This has never been about the piece of paper itself, but what that piece of paper can actually do. We want stuff. We want respect, and we want control. All things that money can actually buy. Nobody gives a damn if that money is stacked on a table in front of them or if it's just written down on a bank ledger, but it's still worth respect to have it. And that's how you get entered into that fraternity. This was a little vague because of the high amount of information to be covered. Again, I'm not specifically saying you have to buy real estate. I'm not saying you have to buy any specific asset. However, there is always something right for everyone. And there is a way that you can escape this death trap of working and living the American dream. For now, just be cautious. If your friends are getting married and settling down and truly living their happily ever after, ask yourself if that makes sense. Do they genuinely feel happy ever after? If you know what you do and start operating on what I told you, you're going to think about the world differently. You're going to think about how big companies trick people every day, how people give into this dream, and how people are a lot of times complacent. Just if that's set up for me, I'm fine just skating my life away. I can retire. I could have the one house, but why limit yourself? There's a formula to retire and live a decent life, but you can always live a great life. And maybe these people that are living happily ever after just don't know the right way to make it happen. You now do. I'll see you next time. Drop a sub if you're here for the long run, because I genuinely am here for you. We'll see you guys.